to the banks of the River Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine. It's a place I love best, 'cause it's better than the rest. Take me home to the banks of the River Tyne. There's lights that burn so brightly, in the northeast sky they shine. From the place that Geordies worship, where legends wear number 9. You can travel right round the world, even meet the Pope in Rome. But nothing beats the feeling of when you come back here to home. No matter how life changes, we'll never be far apart. The northeast always home, and it's always in your heart. Take me home to the banks of the River Tyne. Take me home to the place that I call mine.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to It's All Black and White TV. Yes, it's the preview, Everton versus Newcastle United at Goodison Park on Thursday night, 7:45 kickoff, live on BT Sports, of course. I'm joined by my co-host Roly, and also I'm joined by Mike from the Unholy Trinity podcast. How are you both?
I'm good, thanks. Tired. A long day today. Been at a trade show in Birmingham. So I've been on repeat all day, so just glad to get home and have a cup of tea and relax before I come on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you, Mike? Fine?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Yeah. Work at home most of the time, so it's a lot more relaxing, I'd say, going over the course of the day until obviously the football kicks in, and then life becomes a little bit more stressful at this moment in time.
Yeah, understandable.
Yeah.
Before we get to the show, if you like what you see, then please smash the like. It really does help the channel up the search results, so smash those thumbs up. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, then please smash the subscribe. Free to do so, helps the channel grow. Bell notification tells you when I'm live, have a pre-record, or any upcoming shows. I'll just grab into some comments. Troll says, hi Tony and Roly. He didn't show up there for some reason. There it is, it's on now. Hi to you, Trolls. And he says, hi all. And he says, hi Mike. Bia says, evening Tony, Roly and Mike. Good evening to you, Bia Viking. Hope you're well.
Yeah.
Alan says, evening Tony, Roly and Mike and all. Good evening to you as well, Alan. And Andrew says, all right, man. Yeah, absolutely fine, Andrew. Absolutely fine, mate. So I'm going to come to Mike first. Obviously, he's the guest. And what I'm going to ask you, I want to ask you, how have you found your season this season? Now, we all know where you're sitting at the moment in the Premier League, and it seems to be the same. It seems to be repeating after last season. It's a bit like rather Groundhog Day, Groundhog Year. I mean, how have you found this season? I mean, you've obviously had Lampard as manager. He's gone now. You've got Dacian. Floor's yours. Just let me know how you feel this season and what's happened to your team. Why is it not improved from last year?
Well, the simple truth is they haven't improved the playing squad on the whole. You look at it on paper and you'd probably argue it looks slightly better, but when you lose a big player in Richarlison, you know the talisman of the side last season, dragged us through a number of games, played injured, the back end of the season because he wanted to make sure that we got our safety over the line. And when you lose a character like that, when obviously the situation we find ourselves in with the board, the fan and board relationship is totally broken down. So that's always at the forefront of people's minds, and also a distraction as well from the on-field stuff. When you don't invest in the side in January, when you bring in £45 million, obviously for Anthony Gordon, and there's no money put back into to actually give Sean Dyche the opportunity to bring a couple of players in himself before the window closed. And obviously when your main striker spends the majority of the season injured also, it's a recipe for a bit of a disaster. So, the expectations were low anyway. I thought between 12th and 14th would have been an improvement and where we should finish, and we're not going to be getting probably anywhere near that. We're going to be finishing anywhere between sort of 16th and 20th as things currently stand. So it's a combination of a number of things, really. It's a result of years and years and years of mismanagement, poor investments, and certain people remaining at the club who really shouldn't be at the club at this moment in time. So it's difficult. It's difficult, of course. We thought we would see a little bit of an improvement. We thought we'd, as I say, be a little bit more comfortable. But unfortunately, we're certainly not. And with 6 games to go, we're right in the mix for relegation once again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just like you see, it just hasn't improved, and it is of mismanagement at the top as well. You can see that. I mean, some of the players that was brought in. I mean, you brought players in, and then it just didn't work, and then they've gone for like next to nothing, and and it's. And all that money wasted, it builds up over a time. I mean, if the worst happened and you did get relegated and gone down to the Championship, would that be a bad thing in a way? Would that give you a chance to reset and get rid of the crocs that shouldn't be there? Get rid of those players, and then yes, you might have to sell them at a loss, but then get rid of them. But the club can then reset, refocus, and then make a challenge to maybe get back in the Premier League. Is that something that's probably needed? Is that needed, do you think?
No, it's a disaster. If we go, it's a disaster financially. We can't afford to go down. We break the EFL financial rules straight away, by the way. Mm-hmm. So because they're more stringent than obviously the Premier League rules, so we break their rules straight away. Everton have to bounce. If they went down, would have to bounce straight back up. Otherwise, it could spell curtains, and words like administration are bandied around, obviously, quite often. But it's the truth with Everton. We could be going down that particular road. I mean, there is investment imminent, obviously, which will go towards the final part of the ground, the new ground that obviously Bradley Moore docked there, which is looking tremendous. It's the only thing which is the bright spot on the horizon, really, and it's the investment which is coming in will cement that and make sure that is actually finished. But if we go down it, no, it's a disaster. We can't afford to go down. A lot of sides will say that. You've seen the headlines around Everton's finances and the fact that we've been referred to an independent commission for the 21-22 financial year, if you like, and we certainly can't afford to be losing the tens of millions of pounds that comes with playing Premier League football, that comes with the TV revenue. Obviously, sponsorships will be hit as well. So it's a little bit of a black hole if we go down in terms of where we could end up. And we've got to make sure, as I say, that we get ourselves out of this in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, it's the future does not look particularly bright.
Who's the main one at the top that's causing the problems? Is it Mashiri, or is it Mashiri, or is it Bill Kenwright? Which one of them's the problem? Are they both a problem?
Well, yeah, they're both a problem. I mean, Bill Kenwright brought in Farhad Mashiri, which was ideal for him. He could have sold the club, by the way, to Manchester City's owners before they bought Man City, and didn't. He wants to still play a part in the club, basically. So Farhad Mashiri said, you can stay on as chairman, I'll come in, I'll bring the money. So for Bill Kenwright, he made an absolute bomb on his shares. Never put any money into the club anyway. Made a lot of money, stays on as chairman, is involved in so many decisions that happen on a day-to-day basis, involved in transfers all the time. And he's the one who just can't let go. If he said today, I'm stepping down with immediate effect, that would be a weight lifted straight away. Farhad Mashiri, by the way, is not blameless. He's come in, he's tried to throw money at the problem, gone about it totally the wrong way, paying inflated fees for bang average players, and like you said earlier on, being then sold on for a small percentage of what we've actually paid for them, and it's not worked out. His intentions, I feel, have been right and have been correct. As we all know, backing Farhad Mashiri was Usmanov. That's out in the open, I'm sure. Usmanov has been a part of the club for a number of years. Obviously, when the sanctions were put against him, when the war in Ukraine started, the money then stopped. So Farhad Moshiri is a billionaire in his own right, but he's only a billionaire because Usmanov made him a billionaire effectively. So when we had to pull his sponsorships, so USM were sponsoring the training ground, USM had paid £30 million just for the naming rights, by the way, to get first refusal on the naming rights of Bramley Moore, not to guarantee it, just to get first refusal. So obviously elevating the books and things like that. So Moshiri is definitely a problem. And ideally, we'd want a whole clean slate and everyone to go, to be honest with you. But a starting point will be Bill Kenwright, Denise Barrett-Baxendale, the CEO. We feel that she's basically has not got the background. She came from Everton in the community to then come onto the board at Everton and become the CEO. So has she really got the expertise to do that job? We don't feel that she has. So the change needs to happen across the board. But the most divisive figure is Bill Kenwright. And as I say, if he stepped away tomorrow, you would probably see tensions ease a lot overnight, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd just like to put this to Mike. Pretty much everything you've just said reminds me of me, so like 18 months ago before the takeover of Mike Ashley. Total mismanagement of the club, looking to get profit. I mean, the Sports Direct signs he had on St James's Park, he didn't pay for them for the last 2 years that he was there. He was only paying to like £2.50 anyway. Financially, on the balance sheet, he left us in a good position, but commercial revenue was tiny. Over the 14-year period that he controlled the club, I think our commercial revenue had increased something like 10% when everybody else's had sort of like doubled or trebled. And that's what's holding us back now, is that because of the financial fair play, our owners can't just lump money in like Chelsea could and Man City could. But we're sort of held back by the sponsorship. This season, we got Noon as a sleeve sponsor, and they actually pay more than Fun 88, who have the front of shirt sponsor. It shows how badly the commercial side was run. I think basically they had a commercial department of Lee Charnley. He did all the commercial, did all the transfers, did everything. And it was just terrible. But we were in a similar situation. I agree with you. It's not good to go down under any circumstances, partly because the football's terrible. But it's the financial black hole that you create, because you got, you got players that are on decent. You're not one of the worst players in the Premier League by a long shot, and those wages aren't really sustainable in the Championship. When we went down both times, Ashley had to funnel money in to keep things ticking over. But your board and ownership has got you into a real mess. That's even before you look at the independent commission. If that goes against you, things look bleak.
I think the thing with the commission, though, I mean, obviously this is the unknown, isn't it, for everybody? You know, we've been referred to it. We've been charged with one offence, effectively. Man City have been charged with over 90 offensive, and it's the other end of the scale with Man City. But with us, obviously, you don't know how it's going to go. I mean, from our side, what the defence is, well, every single thing that Everton have done financially for the last 18 months, the Premier League have had to sign off on it, if not longer, by the way. So if Everton were buying a packet of toilet rolls, the Premier League had to say that's okay. So this is not just Everton on trial here, it's the Premier League, because they're the ones who said, well, we raised the concern to say, listen, we're getting closer here because of X, Y, and Z in terms of the profits and sustainability rules that are being set out by the Premier League. So we work with the Premier League. They effectively set us a budget to work off. So when it came to signing players, to new player contracts and things like that, it had to all go through the Premier League. So our question is, well, hang on. You said that was all okay, and you've now referred us to the commission. Why is that? Well, it's pressure from other Premier League teams, maybe. But the biggest reason is it's political, because we all know about the paper that came out in regards to the governance around the Premier League and whether they can and they should self-govern. And all they're doing with us and Man City to a certain degree is to try and make an example and say, well, yeah, look, we can self-govern. It's all a nonsense, really, because in any other walk of life, any other business, an owner can put in whatever they want to that business from a money perspective. So if all Farhad Moshiri wants to do, rightly or wrongly, is throw money in and go, well, hang on, go and buy this player. Obviously, there's rules. We all understand that. But other teams, all the Premier League want to do is keep those 6 sides happy who tend to finish next. That's how you know it yourselves. You know you've been there with obviously the takeover and the fact that first of all it wasn't allowed, then it was allowed. That seemed to come from the government saying, "Hang on, this is allow that now." The pressure came from the government to tell them to allow it. So you've been there. You're probably going back there again because I saw articles in the last few weeks again. They're being questioned and the government's intervention and things like that. So all the Premier League want to do is protect their product. Yeah. They just want the same 6 sides because they make the most money, because they've got the biggest fan bases in the world. So if they all finish in the top 6 and they win all the trophies and what have you, that's all the league wants. So they're trying to keep the Super League 6 as happy as they can. Now, another question is, they tried to destroy the league going back 18 months ago, 2 years. And we're the ones now being punished and potentially getting a points deduction, transfer ban, and what have you. But you gave them a £2 million fine each. So you know that again, it's all a bit of a cartel situation. The Premier League.
Absolutely. I mean, you don't forget Project Big Picture, where they wanted all the voting rights to be with these 6, and then they said the next 3 longest teams in the Premier League would get a vote. Now, they said that was Giselles, West Ham and Southampton. I'm sorry, Southampton were down in League One during the Premier League season. We've missed 2 seasons and they didn't include us because we're a threat. And then the moment that the takeover was way through, they were complaining that they didn't get prior notice. Well, it's got nothing to do with them. And then the first thing they do is tighten the financial fair play rules because they don't want another Chelsea, another Man City coming in with big money to blow them away. Now, we've gone in, we've spent sensibly, we've recruited extremely well, and they've got what they were expecting, but they got it a lot earlier. We're challenging for top 4. Their worry was 6 into 4 doesn't go, 7 into 4 goes less. And if that 7's got potentially a lot of financial muscle behind it, it's going to be difficult to dislodge them if they get there. Now, Tony was expecting us to finish, was it 8th? And win the Carabao Cup was your pre-season prediction?
No, I said 7th before the ball was kicked because I believe that 7th place was there because we only finished 7 points out of it last season. Yeah. So, yeah.
My prediction was between 8th and 6th. And we're 3rd. And they're rattled. They're really rattled because we haven't... I mean, they're rattled now and we haven't even started spending.
That's the problem with the Big 6, though. They think they've got the rights to everything. And then as soon as our owners took down the Sports Direct signs, which obviously the former owner isn't happy about, and he wants... You know, he's trying to take them to court over it because it was supposed to be up till the end of the season. But she took them down, Amanda took them down because she said I was sick because you couldn't stand anywhere and there was a Sports Direct sign in the background when you had your photo taken wherever you were. And as soon as I started taking them down, you had the likes of Leicester going straight to the Premier League and getting other clubs involved and said, come on, let's have a vote. They can't have big sponsorships no more. Well, hang on a minute. Leicester City... Their stadium's called King Power. That's owned by their owners, King Power. King Power was on their shirts. So why are Leicester all of a sudden kicking up and saying, oh, hang on, you can't have big sponsors coming in or sponsors of your own, like who your owners have is like companies your owners own. And I thought, well, hang on, your stadium's King Power. And that's after your owners who own the company King Power. So You can't go in and just say, you can't just say, oh, I'll have the King Power Stadium. That's fine. But nobody else can have anything. Like, say, Man City couldn't have, say, a company that says belongs to Shape Mansour, or like PIF, we can't have somebody associated with them, supposedly, that could come in and say, all right, okay. Like, let's say, for instance, what PIF own a lot of stuff. They own a bit of BT Sport.
Disney.
He calls it BT Sport Stand. They're going to say, "Oh no, that's not allowed because you own part of BT Sport." It's just
or Disney
crazy.
Yeah, I think the problem of our takeover for the Premier League, the clubs in the Premier League, is the clubs at the top were frightened of what we could become and are becoming, and the teams at the bottom didn't like it because they have one less team to compete with to try and stay up. So no one was happy.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, they just want one rule for them and one rule for everybody else. But unfortunately, the Premier League is made up of 20 teams, not 6 teams. There's 20 teams in the Premier League. And each of those 20 teams has got a right to compete. We've seen the bad management lately. I mean, look at Brighton. They should have beat Spurs 4-1 the other week. The amount of fault decisions that went against them are things that weren't even checked on VAR. When there was a certain penalty, when Matoma was tripped, that wasn't sent to VAR. That was just carry on, you can see there's a pattern. It stings because they don't want Brighton in the top 6 or the top 7. Because, we don't want little Brighton coming into the top 7. That'll ruin the Premier League, having them in Europe next season, Why? Why would it ruin the Premier League? They've got every right to be up there if they're going to play great football and they're getting the results. Why can't Brighton be in the top 7?
That was one of the great things about our win on Sunday, is that the goals were so good and there wasn't a hint of anything that could go to VAR. So even the one you thought they might do, the Joe Linton one, he was being played on by 2 players. So there wasn't anything close to going to VAR. So they couldn't do anything about it, even if they wanted to. But let's say it's not just the teams at the top. The teams at the bottom get a bad deal. Like last season for yourselves, where you were denied a penalty against Man City for a handball. I was thinking, well, why didn't they give that? It was a blatant handball. Right. It didn't cost you in the end, but it could have done. You're fighting for your lives. You ended up with a point where you could have got all 3. And that would have meant you'd have been safe sooner.
There's a lot of things. I mean, we can all look at decisions. I mean, VAR, the idea was it comes in to basically get more things right, and they'll hide behind the stats and facts and say, oh, yeah, well, we are. Well, you're not, though, are you? How many things are you getting wrong? Things that they're obvious. It's not even a case of a lot of the time. Obviously, the Brighton one against Spurs was the most recent example. It was obvious. And these when these things, you can accept human error. We accepted human error before VAR came in. It was always a talking point, of course, but it was humans operating their own eyes, their own ears, what have you. So you understood it. When you've got so much technology at your fingertips now, you shouldn't be getting things wrong to this extent. And when it's obvious things, that's when the frustration. That's when the terminology, when people say it's corrupt, we hear it time again.
It's not just the obvious ones. It's one where they take forever. So, like, why are you taking 4 minutes for an offside? Even for some of the other decisions, why are you taking so long? Because if it's supposed to be for clear and obvious errors. If you're taking 5 minutes to decide, it's obviously not clear, and it's not clear and obvious, because it should be something. Howard Webb was interviewed, and he says that for VAR, it should be. We don't want to referee the game. It should be jumping off the screen that they've got it wrong, and it shouldn't take 3 minutes to do it. I mean, I'd give them 2 minutes just so they can get all the angles. But if they can't come up with a definitive decision in 2 minutes, they should go with the on-field decision, because it's not clear and obvious. And that I think that was. I mean, they do. I mean, they come up with the statistics. I think it's they only have one bad mistake in every 37 games, which is basically they're having a really bad decision every other week. So that's 19 really bad decisions in a season, which is too much when you've got all the technology.
Yeah, absolutely. Just going to jump into some comments. Evening, Ari, mate, lad, says Craig. Craig says if Gordon got a hat-trick, that would equal how many goals he has for Everton this season. He's second or third top scorer for Everton, was he?
Yeah, and Anthony Gordon won't leave the bench tomorrow. Don't you worry about that.
Yeah. Alan says he's got a question for you, mate. He says, would you like to see Duncan Ferguson back on your coaching staff?
And not currently. Obviously, he's gone to cut his teeth in management with Forest Green. Being relegated, obviously went into a difficult situation anyway. He's only won one game since he's gone in. I'm assuming they're going to give him, obviously, next season to try and remedy that. Certainly aside that punch above the weight anyway with him being in League One. So he's got a big job on his hands there. He's got to go through 2 or 3 years, I think, as a manager. As a coach, he turned down coaching at Real Madrid. So I certainly don't think he's going to want to come back and coach at Everton again, because he sees his future and his presence as a manager. And we wish him the best of luck, of course. He wants the Everton job at the end of the day at some point in his career. But he's got to go away and manage now for 2 or 3 seasons in the lower league and see if it's what he wants to do. Is he successful? Does his ways of working actually work and come to fruition on the field of play? But as a coach, no, and I don't think Big Dunk would want it either.
Yeah, definitely not. I don't think now that he's got his teeth into management. I mean, like you say, this is the ideal way for a manager to work their way up the leagues and make themselves a manager. It's all right. Like say Steven Gerrard goes to Rangers, wins a lot of stuff for Rangers, which in that league's pretty straightforward. Then he comes to Villa and you see the struggle where if you see a manager like Edo, for instance, he starts in the lower leagues. Bournemouth were literally on their way out of League Two, and he stopped them from going out of League Two, brought them right up to the Premier League, and that's the thing. That's why some managers are better if they start in the lower leagues and work their way up, and then that way they can become a better manager. There's plenty of managers done that. Tuchel's one of them. He's done it. He had to work in the lower leagues and work his way up, and he's a top manager. Bias, are you playing the Just Stop Oil bloke this year?
Yeah, I think he's out of jail actually, because he's been in jail a couple of times since the event. But I think he is out of jail, and we are open to him being part of the proceedings tomorrow night as well.
It worked wonders for you last season.
You get a statue of Bramley Moore, that lad.
Pablo says, all right, Tony and Roly, hope you're both well. Hope we beat Everton 3-1. Brian says, big up Tony, panel and chat. Craig says, mate, I've said for 3 weeks Southampton, Leeds, Leicester will go down. You're safe, lad. Those three are in free fall and fixtures won't help. I mean, Leeds are terrible, aren't they?
Yeah. Leicester shown a bit of fight recently.
Leicester got the better quality throughout the squad. Out of we look at who's down there. Obviously, Southampton, Forest, ourselves, Leicester, Leeds. They've got that extra bit of quality. Leicester, Leeds, attacking wise, are pretty handy. They've got players with pace who can cause problems. Defensively, they're poor. Goalkeepers poor. I think
the defence that keeps on giving.
Well, that's it. You saw Melier against Fulham. He was a fault for both goals, wasn't he? And he never filled me with much confidence anyway. But when you've shipped 5 goals at home to Palace and then 6 to Liverpool, it's not great for the confidence. So I'm sure they're feeling a bit of pressure. But it's up to us to try and overturn. They've still got 2 points on us at this moment in time. You've got to try and overturn that 2-point deficit. But we're all banging trouble. Those 5 sides that I mentioned, they're all the ones who are going to be fighting out to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I think there's a little bit of gaps being formed for the likes of Bournemouth, West Ham.
Yeah, they're all safe. They're all safe.
I think West Ham, have they got 37? If they got 37, they're pretty much safe. And Bournemouth.
One more win keeps West Ham up, I think.
Yeah, Bournemouth are about the same.
Yeah, Bournemouth on 33, aren't they? But
yeah.
Bournemouth, when you pick up a last minute win at Spurs, and they're always quite likely to pick up points, which they have done, and they pulled themselves away.
I mean, they were unlucky not to beat us when we went down there.
Yeah.
They're a decent side for. I mean, it took them a time to sort of acclimatise to the Premier League, but they've been, in this last couple of months, they've been a really difficult side to beat.
Brian says, Anthony Gordon, first prediction from me, first goal prediction, predicting a riot. He says, I don't mean the first goal of the game, but Gordon's first Newcastle goal.
He might stay on the bus. He might stay on the bus. Listen, I think Eddie Howe's got to manage this. I know, obviously, it's a big talking point, and it's not all about Anthony Gordon, it's a matter of course, but Eddie Howe's got to get this right, because by even bringing him on, even allowing him to go and warm up, it will add fuel to the fire in terms of the atmosphere, how hostile it is. And Eddie Howe, I think, as much as he says, mentally, he's fine and things like that, and people saying he's got to face it at some point. Well, he has, but it's very, very raw at the moment. And when you leave a football club, you know yourselves that you've lost players over the years, and some players leave with a bit of dignity and respect. And Anthony Gordon didn't do that. When you go on strike at your boyhood club, it doesn't sit particularly well. And then when you say you thought you received a better send off, but I think the club issued about 6 or 7 words when he left in the statement. It doesn't go down particularly well. And don't get me wrong, the kid last season took a lot of pressure on his own shoulders. That was sometimes was to his detriment, because he wanted to keep the club in the Premier League, and he was the one who was week in, week out, was trying whatever he could, and he left it all out there, and I certainly can't fault him. I think at Everton, what you find is when you get local players who do break through and do show a little bit of talent, they're the ones who then feel the pressure the most, but then are also put on a pedestal. So when the form does drop, they then start to get, obviously, a lot of stick. Tom Davies has been one over the years who's had that. Wayne Rooney probably was the only one who hasn't, because he was, for the time he was there when he first obviously broke through, he was fantastic. But a lot of our younger players over the years suffer because of the fans put them on this pedestal and expect so much from them. But as I say, the way he left the club was poor. What he said since wasn't great. And I think that he will be on the bench, I'm sure, on Thursday. But will he see any game time, and will he warm up and run towards a Gladys Street? I don't think so, somehow. And if he does, he's a braver man than I think he is.
Yeah. I mean, one of the problems, we've seen the videos of him being harassed after the game, which I think that probably had more to him downing tools than his professionalism. Thinking, well, they're going to treat me like that. I want out. Someone actually wants me. Trying to push the deal through. It's not the greatest way to leave.
Don't forget though, in the summer, Anthony Gordon started the season quite well. So he scored against Brentford, scored against Leeds, looked bright all the time. I was quite impressed with how he started the season. At that point, the transfer window was still open. Chelsea were heavily linked. I don't think it certainly wasn't, the figures that were being reported weren't correct. There was no sort of 50, 60 million pound bid from Chelsea. There was a low ball offer of around sort of 15 to 20 million, and a lot in terms of increments as he played more games, potentially won trophies, etc. And then once the window closes, form dipped massively. So that obviously impacted him generally. In terms of the chasing of his car, we never condone that. But every fan base has got the fair share of idiots. And
yeah.
It was 8-10 lads. Yerry Mina faced exactly the same treatment, and it was worse for Mina because his kid was in the car. So again, unforgivable. We were all frustrated. We were all annoyed. Everyone was looking for someone to blame. I think obviously Anthony Gordon, the way there's a bit of a smirk, I think, at first, which I think people saw. So when people give him a little bit of shit through the window, there's a bit of a smirk, and you know, and I'm not condoning it, but when lunatics like that see that,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
It's on the phone, it goes viral. But you're right, it probably did play into his thinking about getting a move and thinking that I want to go here. I can't deal with this pressure from the fans. I can't deal with this hatred and this nastiness. Unfortunately, that's modern football, isn't it? Because everything now is made 20 times, 30 times worse because everyone walks around with a phone in a pocket and films absolutely everything. So we get to see it all, don't we? But they're under so much scrutiny anyway. I just don't think that playing for his boiled club.
I can understand it leaving a bad taste in your mouth.
And listen, it'll, as I say, it will play
the ideal way to leave. But I mean, obviously, he came to us and we had our cameras when he'd signed going through and having a laugh with the face. The best thing he goes to, I think it's Kieran Trippier had that bust up with. And Fabian Schär intervened, and he goes to Trippier says, "Oh, do you want to continue that fight?" And he goes, "No, I've got 9-1 yours. Fabian will look after me." He says, "You've got to earn it." but he is one thing he did do, and all his interviews once he had signed for us, he said all the right things, and looks like he really wants to be a success here. I mean, I think the other thing is a young lad. He was only a little whippersnapper, so that will maybe there's a little bit of lack of maturity as well rolled in there. But we will see in coming seasons whether we have over or underpaid for him.
Yeah, I mean, Craig says I'd play Gordon on. He means tomorrow, even if it was for the last 30. The lad needs to take his medicine sooner rather than later. Away the lads, his headlock's all around tomorrow night. Gareth says, hello, Tony, Roly and guest. Hi, Gareth, hope you're well. Alan says, lads, would you play Gordon against Everton after all the bad blood he caused for Everton? Do you know what it is? I think, in all honesty, I tend to agree with mate. I think if you just keep him on the bench, even if he is on the bench, keep him on the bench. It all depends. It's all up to Eddie Howe at the end of the day. You know, Eddie Howe gets paid the millions to do these decisions, so we'll leave it to Eddie Howe on that one.
I think there's only likely to be one change for us tomorrow, and that depends on Fabian Schär and his fitness. They're going to give him a late fitness test. Otherwise, I think we'll start unchanged. And there's no reason not to after the performance they put on Sunday. Go with the same team. So I think that, particularly if the game is won, I might bring him on for the last 20 minutes or so. But I don't expect him to start.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee says, evening, Tony, Roly and Mike. How's your day been, like lads? Yeah, absolutely fine, mate. Thank you very much.
Good.
Coffee says, hi, Tony, Roly, Mike and all. Hi, Coffee. Away the lad says, Chonley was a tea lady and chimney sweep. Ashley stood him as the shit deflector along with the manager at times. Yeah, he did. Alan says, mate, I hope you get Saudi on us. Just stick it up, Liverpool. Craig says, somebody needs to regulate the government. Alan says, mate, is your new stadium going to hold more supporters than Liverpool?
No.
Liverpool are expanded, aren't they? They've got an expansion of the Anfield Road, so we're visiting supporters obviously sit during the games. So theirs is going up to, I think it's high 50s. We're around 52. We always thought it was a little bit low, but I mean they did say if we need to expand, we can do. You know, with safe standing and things like that, there will be safe standing areas in there, but how that actually transpires remains to be seen. But no, it won't be as big as Liverpool's capacity. But the stand, by the way, are much steeper. So the home end is I think it's the steepest home end in the Premier League. It will be. So you know, you look at Liverpool's Kop as an example. It's much more steeper than that. It's going to be very, very tight, like Goodison Park on top of the pitch, but obviously with sort of 13,000 more fans in as well.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Be nice to see when it's all finished. Craig says, Levy's got too much sway with the rule makers at the Premier League. Spurs is their model of club. where it makes money for its owner. They're dead against investment in the league as it stops them making money. You're probably right, because Levy's terrible for that, any. Pablo says the thing is, if we had not been robbed in so many games like Palace and Brighton and Wolves, we would be on second on 72. Yeah, we lost 14 points so far. RJ Magpies, all right, everyone? Yeah, absolutely fine, mate. Ian, hi, Tony, Roly and Mike. Hi, Ian, hope you're well, mate. Craig says, Master said they didn't want another Leicester. Well, the Premier League are just so corrupt. It's unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Lewis says, some people have worked out why Newcastle should have had 14 points just to put us second in the league. Lee says, too many jealous clubs in the league. Don't like clubs doing well in the league. They don't. That's the thing, yeah. And RG Magpie says, the sooner us, Brighton and Villa push through their mental cartel out the 6th, the better. Well, the thing is, Villa got a win last night and Spurs are now down to 6th. If Spurs get hammered tomorrow night off Man United and Brighton win tonight, then Brighton catch them up and, Spurs could be out this top 7 by the end of the season. Mighty Max says, even Tony, Roly and Mike. He says, Mike, how are you feeling tomorrow and what's your thoughts on Anthony Gordon? I
think you've had them already. I think you've had me. Your money's worth there. So yeah, it's. I said earlier on, it's we don't look forward as opposed to going the game at this moment in time. But I think we know what we've got to do. We've been there before. We know what we need to do as a fan base. We know what we need to make Goodison Park tomorrow. You might argue, but when the crowd are at the best at Goodison Park, there's nowhere like it. There's literally nowhere like it in terms of under the floodlights, night game, all the animosity that's swirling around, all the plans in terms of the coach welcome. If you are coming down for the game from Newcastle, then sign sample it, because it's when the coach gets greeted outside Goodison Park, listen, it's a spectacle, So all that, all the banners which are getting brought out, new banners, things like that. The fact that there's going to be a fan walk to the ground before the game to get in, make sure we're there as best we can for the warm up. It's going to be lively, believe me. So that part I'm looking forward to. It's a 90 minutes, which sort of after all that, which I'm not. But I'll be there. I'll be there trying my best to get the lads over the line.
Yeah, I mean, Craig says that Leicester's running is horrid, and when you look at it, I mean, games they've got Leicester, they're not great at all. They've got Everton at home, yourselves at home on Monday night. Then the week after, they've got Fulham away. Then they've got Liverpool at home. Then they've got us away. Then they've got West Ham away at home. That's not a great run in that for Leicester. That could be very, very tricky for Leicester indeed.
It's very much on par. I mean, if you look at ours, obviously we've got yourselves tomorrow. We go to Leicester on a Monday. We then go to Brighton. Then Man City comes to Goodison Park. We then go to Wolves and we then play Bournemouth. So out of those 6 games, we're saying to ourselves, you need probably 2 wins. Where's the 2 wins coming from? So that's why tomorrow we probably put so much importance on tomorrow. As much as obviously you're sitting third in the table, we do see our home games as winnable. We've proven it already this season. We beat Arsenal in Sean Dyche's first game, absolutely flying high top of the table. We ended Brentford's unbeaten 13-game unbeaten run, the longest in the Premier League at the time. So we've got form in terms of breaking sides down who are on good runs and in decent form and at the top end of the table. So it's important that we do get something from the game tomorrow, and obviously 3 points would be the ideal way.
So how do you think you're gonna approach the game against us?
It's going to be very much give up possession. We're not going to sit there and go, okay, we'll try and play out from the back and we'll try this tippy tappy football. It's Sean Dyche that we're talking about, and Sean Dyche sets up a particular way. Our players are limited in terms of defensively. They don't like the ball at the feet. It's that simple. So what Jordan Pickford will do is he will look to go long to Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he is fit to answer that question. So Dominic Calvert-Lewin will be playing tomorrow. He'll look to go long. You look for Dom to obviously get the knockdowns to the core, Onana, assuming he's fit, bring in the wider players in Iwobi and Dwight McNeil. Look to be physical, look to be energetic, to match yourselves. Obviously, Newcastle's probably best traded at this moment in time. Is you play with so much energy. You know, your press is very good. Eddie Howe obviously doesn't allow your players to share responsibility. Everyone knows the role. You're organised. So Everton have got to match Newcastle in terms of intensity. That's the first thing. Everton have got to be physical. Everton have got to put the foot in, because that's what will get the crowd. What will get the crowd up, especially. So we will sit with a deep lying defensive line, because Isak's got pace, Murphy's got pace. Almiron, if he plays any pass, got pace. Anthony Gordon, if he does get any kind of game time, is quick. I think he was the second quickest, or clocked the second quickest time in the Premier League this season, which is surprising for many. But he is quick. You've probably seen it yourselves. I think was it against Spurs at the weekend when he went past Murphy, and he nearly got a goal. So you've got a lot of players there. St. Maximin, if he's back, another one who always concerns me. Willock got pace. So there's bags of pace. So Everton will not be playing with a high line. Everton will sit 2 or 3 yards deeper. Look to try and bully Isak, because he's got that pace. But both Tarkowski and Keane are both big lads, so they won't shake that side of things. And look, as I say, look to go long, look to win the knockdowns, look to win the second balls, try and force corners, try and force free kicks. It's not going to be pretty from Everton. It's not going to be this lovely football. We'll approach it in an old-fashioned manner and try and use the dark art to try and win the game. It's that simple from as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of thing that I was expecting. I think on our side, what we want is a fast start, take the crowd out of it, and then we can play our football. We're fortunate at the moment that our we only played one up top, but both of them are in tremendous form. They've all got double-figured goals this season, and they've all had missed various periods with injury. They're starting to get goals from other areas of the pitch. So Jacob Murphy scored a cracker on Sunday. Joe Linton starting to score. So we've been crying out for goals, because we had a period where we weren't scoring or only getting one, and playing a lot better than the results were. So everything seems to be clicking now. So I'd look for us to try and get a fast start.
Yeah. Sefton says evening all.
Evening, Sefton.
He says Mrs. Sefton's gearing up for tonight. Yeah, well, Sefton's wife, obviously Mike won't know, but she's a Liverpool fan, and obviously they're travelling away to West Ham, so that could be a dodgy game for Liverpool tonight, because West Ham need the win to stay in the Premier League, so who knows?
They've been playing better as well. But I'm glad to see Sefton's gone back to his normal handle on here.
Yes, he has. Howie the lad says fit and proper owners test and regulation should go for current owners. They would have found Mike Ashley a non-fit owner of a goldfish, let alone a football club. Yeah, you're absolutely right. They would have, wouldn't they? Just absolutely. Bia says, I don't think we'll see Gordon come on tomorrow. It will be Miggy, and if fit, yes. You're probably right with that one.
Arson's back in Newcastle, so we don't know how fit he is. But I know there'd be people saying, "Oh, I should take his medicine," but I wouldn't necessarily play him, not because the occasion or he needs to take his medicine. Why? We're in the critical stage of the season for both our clubs. You're fighting for relegation. We're fighting for the Champions League. It's going to be a hostile atmosphere anyway at Goodison Park. Why give you more fuel? The only time, if we do get a fast start, take the crowd out of it, and are comfortable, maybe bring him on at the end. But there's no point giving you extra incentive to get behind your team, because teams. I mean, it's like it's in shape. Teams feed on the crowd. I mean, look how good we are. It's been this season at St James's Park, and the crowd is no small part of that. So the whole thing is to take the crowd out of it. If you start with Anthony Gordon, you've defeated that before you've kicked the ball.
Yeah. I mean, Stephen says, mate, he was punished last season. He was up in the gods 35,000 feet.
It must have been in the top balcony then with the home fans up there, because that's the highest point and very, very steep, that's for sure.
Yeah, I've been there once, and we needed an iron lung when I got up the top.
Matey Mag says, Meg, who shall we have to watch tomorrow, and who's your goal machine?
No one and no one. It's probably the honest answer. There's no one.
So what do you think?
What have you made of Dwight McNeil this season? I mean, has he proven good or not, or is he just average?
Listen, he's done okay. You know, he came off a season with Burnley where he got 1 assist. That was his output last season. With us, you know, he scored a few goals. He scored 4 goals now with 3 or 4 assists. So his output's been better. Under Sean Dyche especially, he looks a lot more comfortable. He was in and out of the side under Frank Lampard. Wasn't really a major part of his system. It was very much the Gray and Anthony Gordon were your two wide players. But I mean, one to watch. I mean, I was on one of the shows last night, one of the Newcastle live shows last night, and a lot of people asking about Amadou Onana.
Yeah,
well, he looks. Hopefully, he's going to be back fit. And I mean, Sean Dyche mentioned today he is back. He's back training. Him and Seamus Coleman. Obviously, Decore is back from suspension as well. So it's a big lift for us if those 3 players are back in. But Onana, Newcastle fans asking whether, you know, there's a bit of interest there because he mentioned something. I think, as you know, I didn't see it personally, but I know there's been interest there between Arsenal and Chelsea. He's probably a player that Everton will look to cash in on, believe it or not, in the summer, depending on our financial situation, depending on where we are in terms of what league we're in. He's a player that we can make a quick profit on because of his age, 21 years of age. He's a Belgian.
I didn't realise he was that young.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah. No, I thought he was older than that. He looks like a decent combative midfielder.
He's a big, tall lad, big, strong lad. Loves a slide tackle. Obviously, got big, long legs as well. So more often than not, he wins the ball. I think the thing with him is just when you come in from obviously outside of the Premier League as a young player, especially, it takes that time to adjust. And sometimes you know, decision making's not quite there. You want him to sort of put the accelerator down when he carries the ball. But he certainly missed, you know, against Palace, against Fulham. He was missed in both of those games, and you know, for his physicality alone in the midfield, when you've got him, Sagana Gay, and Abdoulaye Doucouré, you've got a nice mobile midfield there. When you take 2 of those players out, you lose a lot. So he's probably one for yourselves if he's back fit to have a little look at. That's for sure. Oh, and Jordan Pickford as well. You know, it'd be nice for you to watch the best people. So that'd be nice for you.
Like falling.
I mean, when you got Onana, to be fair, in the summer, I thought that's a hell of a sign. How have you managed to pull that off? Because, you know, I've seen a couple of games that lad played for Lille last season, and he looked absolutely immense. And I was just gobsmacked when Everton signed him. It's just a shame, like, you know, the rest of the team hasn't, like, you know, been up to it much this season, or else, as you see, it could have been a little bit higher in the league, and you might not have been worrying about relegation battles. But you know, as I say, I was just quite surprised when you signed him. But he's not done too bad in the Premier League from what I've seen in games and play.
No, he's done okay. You know, he's done well. He's certainly improved as the season's gone on. He was heavily linked to West Ham, wasn't he, at the time? And the thought was that West Ham were going to get him. Everton obviously did the deal. I think Frank Lampard was a big part of that because of the fact that played in a similar position. So that appealed to Onana, somebody who's embraced the club, a bit of a fan favourite. But like I say, a lot of development to do, and you know, on a long-term contract at 21 years of age. You know, even though we bought him for around sort of 34-35 million pounds as a whole deal, we will certainly make a profit on that if we sold him in the summer as well. So it's certainly one to watch. Onana, where, you know, doesn't matter where we are in terms of our what league we're in, I think he's definitely one who could be moving on quickly to a side who are in Europe, who are fighting for titles and trophies. And I think he'll have a very, very successful career.
Yeah, Coffee says, I predicted 6-2 against Spurs. You didn't, but you weren't far wrong. He says, but I predict 1-1 tomorrow because Everton at home will be intimidating. It's a fair enough result. Ian says 6 points. That's tomorrow and Sunday. That will guarantee us Champions League. I think it would do, Ian. Absolutely. Depends on the Man U result with Tottenham tomorrow. ESM can't get over Joe Linton yet. He's on the bench. I think ESM's still injured at the moment.
Yeah,
Howie the lad says, hope the Tsunami wear the T-Rex costume again. Saw the video of him walking. Yeah, I remember because when he done that, St James and Jordan Pickford looked up, didn't he, and saw it. House said Maxi won't play tomorrow. There we go. Coffee says Ryan Fraser will be an upgrade in the Everton squad. Would you have Ryan Fraser?
No.
No, there you go. That's your answer, Coffee.
I don't blame you.
Howie the lad says, I hope Seamus Coleman plays because he's finished. Do you think Seamus Coleman's at the end of his career now, or?
Well, he certainly is. I mean, he shouldn't be our starting right back. We brought in Nathan Patterson last January. He's had a few injury issues over the course of the 13, 14 months that he's been there. He's only just come back in recent weeks to the squad. Wasn't picked against Palace when obviously there was no Seamus Coleman. Mason Holgate played and got himself sent off. But Seamus Coleman has had a little bit of a resurgence this season. Well, under Sean Dyche, he's been probably one of Sean Dyche's better players. As much as obviously I think he's 34 years of age now. Don't question Seamus Coleman in terms of attitude, application. He can't do what he used to do. He can't fly down the wing and go past the winger in front of him as much as he used to do. But I'd rather Seamus Coleman play there at this moment in time than anybody else.
Yeah. Matey Max asking you a question, mate. He says, can you see Anthony Gordon finishing his career off at Everton, or has that bridge been burnt?
I mean, no, that won't be happening. Mind you, we say this, Wayne Rooney came back after scoring for United and kissing the badge in front of the Everton fans, but Wayne Rooney was a very, very special talent, wasn't he? So Anthony Gordon coming back, I don't think so. But listen, football's a funny game, isn't it? Never say never.
Yeah, absolutely. Craig says, Mike, if you could pick one of our players, who would you take?
Probably Isak, to be honest. There's a few there that I look at Newcastle. The likes of Bruno, fantastic signing. Jolinson kicked on massively in the last 12 months since he's converted to playing in midfield. But we need goals. So I'll probably say Isak would be the one for me. Looking at him, looking at the what he's done. Now he's settled down and he's obviously acclimatising more to the league. Got over the injury issue that he had as well. He's a player who's a real talent and one we've got to keep a close eye on tomorrow. That's for sure. Yeah,
definitely he's in form at the minute, Isak. Coffee says, did they have security issues at Goodison Park with pitch invasions, and what happened last time? Like obviously last year when you all came on the pitch against Crystal Palace, and obviously we know the Just Up Oil thing as well. I mean, do you normally have them issues, or are the security normally tight, or has it been tightened since then?
The only one who has security issues are people who turn up in dinosaur suits, so they might have a few security issues. But outside of that, no, I'm joking. It's not that the Palace game was an anomaly in terms of it was the relief. In terms of you stayed in the Premier League, you see what happened with Vieira. To be honest with you, there wasn't a great deal in that, and Vieira gave him a bit of a kick and a shove and what have you. And that was the end of that, as far as I was concerned. There was no safety issues in terms of that. I think, obviously, we've been warned multiple times. We've been charged. We've been fined, and we've got to be careful. Obviously, the way Goodison Park is set out, the stands are very, very tight to the pitch. So if someone wants to get on, you're going to get on. It doesn't matter. With the best will in the world, the stewards don't spend all day, every day, all game, just lining the pitch. They do it with 5 minutes to go in either half. So no more concerns than anywhere else. It's just the fact that obviously the situation and sometimes moments can lead to a little bit of madness, but not major security concerns. No.
Yeah, I mean, Sefton says, I remember Steve Watson cracking player historically. Yeah, and away the lad says, I remember Everton saying Mark Ottager, Pistoni, and Steve Watson from us. I mean, did you rate any of them?
Steve Watson was all right. I remember he scored a hat-trick against Leeds one time at Goodison Park, and that was in a 4-4. But no, Steve Watson was all right, a bit of a utility player. We got him a sort of, near in the back end of his career as well. But the other two, Pistoni was all right, wasn't great, and Mark Ottager, the less said about him, probably the better, to be honest.
Yeah, Steve Watson was a cracking player. I mean, I remember, I think he was 16-year-old and he got a booking because he'd done a somersault and done the throwing.
Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
Against Middlesbrough, and he got booked for it. And I was like, well, what's wrong with that? It's not, he threw the ball into play. He's not gone over the byline or anything. So obviously, just the referee didn't like it and just thought, I'm giving you a yellow card for it. And the lad says, just stop the sweaty, greasy students. Coffee says, how did they get a blade in the stadium to free the protester? Yeah, because there was that last year, wasn't there? Somebody handed the steward a blade and he said, oh, that won't cut it, and handed it back to the guy. I mean...
It's the world we live in. There's no metal detectors. They certainly don't search everyone that goes in. I don't think I've been searched more than once, maybe this season. So, until they start bringing in the likes of metal detectors and ramping things up, that can happen. They say you're not allowed to bring in the smoke bombs and the pyros and things like that. They get them in no problem. So it's a difficult thing to combat, really, isn't it? People shouldn't be walking around with knives full stop. Never mind when you go into a game of football. It's a disgrace, and the fact that it was handed back and as if to say, oh yeah, thanks for that, mate, but yeah, that ain't going to work. It should have been handed to a police officer to say, right, do us a favour. Cart them out,
Yeah.
There's certainly I've got no time for people going around with weapons, but that is obviously for the police to deal with, and for the club obviously to work with the police to get those kind of things under control.
Yeah, I mean, that protester, I think he just caused a lot of problems last year because it stopped the game for about 15 minutes while they were trying to free him, because they were trying to find something to free him, and I think he'd actually pulled it too tight, so he was choking as well. I mean, I remember some of the reactions from the Everton fans. They were not happy with him, whether they were having a right go at him when he was going down.
Somebody chinned him, didn't he? Someone ran on from the gravel seat and punched him while he was tied to the goalpost, so he got carted off. And then you got the fella with the bolt cutters, the famous picture where he's trying with all his might to try and get the cable tie off, and he can't.
I don't know why he thought bolt cutters would do it.
It was just one of those games that will go down in folklore for a variety.
Is that the guy there?
That's the fella. So this fella with the at the back there, see him? Is like
with the teeth.
His teeth are out, going for it like Ken Dodd, and he's going for a big style. Yeah, it was funny game.
It is. It's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? I mean, yeah. I mean, he got jailed for that guy, didn't he? And rightly so. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he shouldn't be going on. I mean, but there should have been, all clubs should have been on warning after that, because just before that game, they'd done it at Spurs at the weekend before. I think it was Spurs West Ham in the Tottenham Stadium. He got on the pitch. I don't think he managed to get himself tied on, but they managed to catch him. And all ground should have been put on heightened alert since then. But and then we've seen them again in the snooker. They went there and done it, didn't they? Just stopped early. But I think the stadiums will be beefing their securities up now anyway. Mikey Max says, we got to quiet the crowd early on and can see Everton getting the red. And Harry Potter and the Wormtail. Right, so we'll come to the end of the show, guys. But I'm going to come round and ask Mike for his prediction for tomorrow and how he sees the game go.
I think it's going to be a tight affair. I really do. Newcastle, I'm sure, and yourselves will look to your last game and take a lot of confidence, and rightly so, understandably so. The players will be full of confidence and thinking that they can come to Goodison Park and certainly score 2 or 3 goals. I don't see it that way. If it goes the way that I've got it in my head, that is. It'll be tight. It's going to be, as I say, a game that we're going to be heavily involved in as a crowd. I think we can nick it. I really do. We won't stop yourselves scoring. There's too much firepower up there. But I certainly think that Everton can score a couple of goals and win the game by 2-1. In my wildest dreams, maybe might look back at this on Friday morning and think, what was I on about? But you've got to, where there's life, there's hope, isn't there? And we've got to have, go in there with a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. And Roly, what's your prediction for tomorrow?
I think it's going to be a tough game. I think Everton are going to try and make it physical, try and break up the play. But that all goes for naught if we start fast and get a goal or two up. Then I think Everton's biggest worry is going to be scoring, because you haven't got much firepower, and of late we've actually started defending again. It's just I still haven't got over the fact that we've got the best defence in the league, because those Newcastle and best defence in the league are things that don't normally occur in the same sentence. They never have done since I've been supporting them. But we've been so good defensively this season. I think the key to the game is the first 10-15 minutes. If we can start fast, get a goal, get one goal at least, that'll quiet the crowd down. You'll get to your players, because that means you got the point. When you're in that position, we know that confidence is a very fragile thing when you're fighting relegation, and if we can get up early, it'll take the crowd out of it. It could affect the players. We have the firepower to. I mean, as Spurs find out, to put a lot of goals away. I think it's going to be close. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to win 2-0. But it's going to be a tough game. They're not going to make it easy for us. And why should they? They're going to battle. Sean Dyche's side's battle. They're going to give everything for it. They're going to try and feed off the crowd, which is why I think it's, even if we don't score in the first 10-15 minutes, we're going to be on the front foot, putting you under pressure, which will start to take the crowd out of it. Last season when you played, we'd done that, and then that idiot zip-tied himself to the post. I got back into the game, and the players, though their animosity was aimed at him, the fact that your players fed off that noise, and you eventually got the win. I think it's going to be a different result this time round. It's going to be a tough game, because there are no easy games in the Premier League unless one side doesn't turn up. Spurs didn't turn up on Sunday. We did, and we thumped them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Everton will turn up. I think we will turn up. So it'll be an interesting game. I think we'll win 2-0, 1-0. But it's football. Anything can happen.
Yeah, definitely, Roly. I mean, my prediction's 2-0 as well. Mighty Max says, great show, everyone. 1-1 tomorrow for him. Sefton says, great show, lads. 3-1 to Newcastle. Lee says, sorry, Mike, 3-0 win for Newcastle tomorrow night. Coffee says, I think 1-1. Gordon to score, and Iwobi, I think, will score. Ian says 2-0 to Toon. Brilliant show tonight, lads, says Lee. Thank you very much. Pete's in the chat. Pete, he says, heard we're wearing the third kit tomorrow. I've seen the meltdown on social media. We can end the drought of not being able to win a game wearing our third kit. I'm sure we'll be fine, Pete. I'm sure we'll be fine if people are going to melt down for that. It's a good time to put it right, I suppose. But whatever kit we wear, we just have to go out there and just play the game and see how we get on.
We've got to turn up. If we don't turn up, we can get beaten.
Like we did at Villa.
Yeah. We actually got off lightly at Villa because they only scored 3. It could have been more. As I said, in the Premier League, you've got to turn up. If we don't turn up, Everton could quite possibly win the game.
Absolutely. Before we go, Mike, I mean, do you want to let people know where they could find you on your socials and your channel as well? Give that a plug as well, and if you've got any shows coming up, mate.
I'm not sure whether you're going to want to listen to our show with who you follow, but by all means, come on over. So we're on obviously all your major podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all across there. Now and again, we'll throw something on YouTube. Sometimes we do, but on Twitter at UHT Podcast as well, Instagram at UHT Podcast Everton, and also sometimes we'll pop up on there. On Facebook, so by all means, there's a few nice episodes on there, just historical ones. Some, we do a B-side as well, which looks at issues within football, which are always quite interesting. So yeah, by all means, check us out and have a little listen.
Yeah, all our fans always do. They like to always check out other people's podcasts and give them a subscribe or whatever. So it's absolutely brilliant, and it's a great way to get your channel plugged and people to have a look at it and, and see what they think of the content as well. So, yeah, but do check it out, guys, and you won't be disappointed. Roly, do you want to let people know where they can find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Pol67. If you follow me, I'll follow you back.
There you go. You can find me on Twitter, so there's me handle down there, so just follow me on that. The same handle on Twitch also. Yes, before we drop off the show tonight, if you have liked what you see, then please smash the like. It really does help the channel up the search results. So if you haven't smashed it yet, just give it a smash on the wheel. Thank you. Also, if you're brand new to the channel, then hit the subscribe. Free to do so. It helps the channel grow. And that bell notification will let you know when I'm live, have a pre-record, or any upcoming shows. And Ian says, cheers, guys. Great show. Thank you very much indeed, Ian. And Sefton says, I hope Everton stay up with lots of his family members are Evertonians. So there's somebody giving you a bit of support there, Mike. Alan says, great banter, lads. Mike, best of luck till the end of the season. But Newcastle to win 2-1. And Coffee says, bye, Tony, Roly, Mike, and all. Bye-bye to you as well. I like coffee.
Bye, Coffee.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been a great show, and we look forward to the game tomorrow. And it promises to be a cracker, whatever the result is. But I'm sure Nick Pope will tell the players exactly how Sean Dyche sets up and how he plays, because obviously Nick Pope's been with them for a lot of years. So I'm sure he'll have the team well drilled to say, look, you might have to be patient or whatever, but because we know how good a manager Sean Dyche is. He's a pretty good manager. And that's one thing I'm going to ask you quickly before we go. I mean, are you happy with Sean Dyche now that you've got rid of Lampard?
It was almost a needs-must situation, wasn't it? We had to bring a manager in who's got experience of the situation that we find ourselves in. But whatever happens, I think he'll be in charge next season anyway, to be honest. If we stay up, he deserves the right to try and build a side, and if we go down, he's got the chance to try and bring us straight back up. So it was needs must. He started okay. He's done all right. Probably got out of games that we probably expect. Not done too well in games that maybe we thought we should have done. The Villa game, we were on top until they got the goal. Fulham, terrible performance at home. Those two games especially stick in my mind. But then you look at games, Arsenal, beating Brentford, should have really beat Forest. There's other games where maybe, we've slightly overperformed as well. So he's done what we expected. Obviously, we'd like to be sitting a little bit more comfortably than we are. But obviously, the major sort of grading of Sean Dyche will come when the season's over and we can see where we finish off in the table.
Yeah, and you can have a pre-season as well and get the team sorted out ready for the new season. So it's not ideal we come in literally just before transfer deadline and then he didn't have really any time to buy any players. So he's sort of been dealt a bad hand from the start, but I'm sure if you stay in the Premier League next season, he might turn Everton around and make them a little bit better, and maybe get you and stop you getting into that rut where you're in relegation battles year in, year out. So who knows?
You don't want to be in them year in and year out, because sooner or later it'll catch you.
Exactly right. Yeah, 2 years on the spin is bad enough. I don't think any Evertonian could take it being a regular thing. From both a physical and mental perspective, it'll be far too difficult to deal with. So yeah, it certainly can't become a regular thing. Hopefully, this is the final time, and we can stay up and push on next season. But we will see. Big 6 games to come.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you to everybody who's come on the chat tonight, and some great chat messages in there, some great questions as well from Mike. So thank you very much. But all that leaves me to say is enjoy whatever you're doing for the rest of your evening, and it's how we're the lads, and good night from me.
It's good night for me.
And bye-bye
for me as well. I'll throw myself in there. It's good night from me. You can have that.
There you go. Yeah, lovely. Thank you very much. See you later. Bye-bye.